because I really struggled with, for example, my Italian identity. Because when I was in Italy, I kind of rejected.
You were just you, yeah, okay.
I didn't feel Italian. I felt like me, like I said, just like an individual. I didn't feel connected at all to the Italian identity or anything, and I didn't really give any importance to it at all. And when I moved here, I kind of really hold on to it, even though I was thinking, oh, everything. I felt like everything is better here, but then for some reason I was still really.
Well, the food.
One of the things, definitely, and but not just, I just really felt like, oh, I'm Italian, and like before I never really even thought about it.
Sometimes it's how you're treated as well, because back home, people don't go around saying, we're Italians, Like, some parties maybe do.
Yeah, no.
Let's not get into that.
No, exactly.
But on the day-to-day interacting with people, it's, you and me, first name, let's go. But here you somewhat, because of the accent, you might stand out, and people might be like, oh, you're Italian. And
they remind it to you.
Yeah, you constantly remind us that you're Italian here, you're Italian there, and you're like, yeah, I'm Italian. Huh.
Yeah, and it becomes, and also like, maybe you start obviously missing the things, you start realizing, it's just like, it becomes very complex, because I still don't feel like most of Italians maybe they like live in Italy, I feel very different from them. When I go back home, I feel a bit foreign sometimes. I act differently from the people there that stayed in Italy.
Yeah.
And then, but here I'm not Scottish either. And then, so I feel in this kind of limbo where I'm like, I'm not Scottish. And I know when I'm here, I'm Italian, but then when I go back home, I'm not really Italian as the other Italians.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel a bit foreign in both places, but I also feel very connected to both.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that you have to define for yourself, first and foremost, and not let other people, like you can listen to other people's thoughts, but you should have the final say on how you define, like your cultural identity. Like, so my thing is, because I'm ethnically Hungarian, but grew up in Romania with these Hungarian people as well. So I always say, if they ask me specifically, what are you? I go, I'm ethnically Hungarian, but culturally I'm both Hungarian and Romanian. Because I've got friends in both, I speak both languages, listen to the music, yada yada yada. I studied in both, so it's something that I've been lucky that sort of I have my own opinion on this, and unless someone gives me a better argument for it, I'm not changing it. This is who I think I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see, like, because so many people here that I've met come from similar backgrounds. For me, it's a bit, straightforward, because I was just born in Italy and then moved here. But still, I find it so complex. So I imagine for other people that have more, actually more identities even going on there. I'd be.
No, it is weird, because you're 100% correct. I go back home, and I remember after 5 years, or not even a couple of years, but now it's coming up to 9 years when I'm gonna go back home. I do feel, a tourist in my own hometown.
Yeah.
And it's because in certain ways we're not just from a place, we're also from a time, as it were, our experiences are from a very specific
time.
So I'm from the 90s and up to 2013 of my hometown, Romania. Things have changed since then. Exactly. It has evolved, so me going back now, I still bring the memories of that time and that place. Mm-hmm. So it can be it's a constant learning curve, and I guess it's because we don't live there. When you live somewhere, you're adapting very easily, because it just happens on a daily, and 5 years from now, you're not the same person in the same town it was 5 years ago. Yeah. But when you go back every couple of years, you have to update everything in 1 week.
And
it's like that shop's gone, and we do something different now, and there's a new political party, and there's a new thing, and
people change their minds, their, and I've noticed that, especially it's very fascinating, I find, especially if I can take the example of Italians, because a lot of Italians just emigrated everywhere in the world, and so you kind of meet Italians a bit everywhere. And I've really seen how the Italians that are abroad, how actually they're also really almost, they're the ones that are the most stereotypically Italians, I mean, and they're actually Italians, because it's this feeling of wanting to hold on to your identity, but it's also your memory of your...
Okay, so before we got rudely interrupted, we're back in with talking about memory of your place. Yes.
Yes, and I've noticed how interesting it is with other Italians that live abroad, I've seen it. Well, mainly met young people, so they were maybe more similar to me. But when I met this couple, and they were the husband. He's Italian American.
Okay.
So he's very interesting. Grew up like in the Bronx, and basically he moved to Italy. He moved from Italy, from the south, when he was a child. So then he grew up in the Bronx, and then from America, then he moved to Scotland. But he lived all his life away. But he married still an Italian woman from his similar area, and then I went in their house, and it was. I thought it was mind blowing. It was like mind blowing, like a film set. It was like one of those, I don't know, Italian films you see about like Italian immigrants in New York, or even it just looked like a really old house in the south of Italy. But like I feel like now most of people in Italy don't have their house looking like that anymore.
Yeah.
But the style, the furnitures they had, they just like the way they lived, it was like really stuck in time.
Yeah, because you recreate, especially if it's a childhood memory, then it's like slightly becomes nostalgic as well. So it's slightly heightened. It's even more beautiful than it was when you lived there.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was this house. It was from the outside. It's one of those typical like Victorian houses in Edinburgh. But then inside, it was like a film set, like. You know, in the Italy of the 60s or something.
Yeah, like a completely different, like what you see outside, and it's a complete
They had the colors of the wall, the furniture they had. It was probably got like from antique shops, or like maybe from Italy even. They had, you know, crosses, and then they had the TV in Italian, because in some way they managed to get like the radio system in Italian, and then the TV as well. They were watching the Italian channels.
Oh,
and then it
so
was
like, oh, hi, Grandpa.
And then they cooked for me this meal, and I was like, how did they manage to get these ingredients? It tasted like what you would eat in your like grandparents' home. I don't know, in Italy, like, they had these tomatoes. They were like, I don't know where they found them in Scotland, but they made this seafood. But they made this like seafood pasta. It tasted like in a restaurant, and I was so shocked. They had all these things, that recreated all these things, and even the food they were using, it just like tasted like Italy and looked like Italy, but not even the Italy that I know, like another Italy.
Yeah.
It's like the Italy that I've seen in films, or like really old people houses. But they, you know, they're not that old, but they still have their house looking like, I don't know, a great grandma would have, or and it was so fascinating. I found even the way he talks, it's just like he was stuck in time, you know. It was in something that probably if you go there.
But that's a generational thing, the slang, the phrases,
But like if you would go to Italy and talk to someone of their age living there, it would be different, because like you say, Italy has changed. You know, people now they act a different way. They decorate their house differently. They dress differently. They speak differently.
Yeah, because they've adapted along the years, but he's preserved the memory of.
Yes, and it's still like really this memory that is from like so many years ago. It was.
The man is a time capsule.
Yes, it was really interesting, you know, and I think. And also because a lot of Italians living in Italy, they might be like frustrated because, you know, they're there and like you were saying at the start, in their daily life and so they see all the problems and the things not working, they're always complaining about it here. But then people that I've met here, like it's just a lot of them are, I mean, they're really happy of being here and they wouldn't move back, but they're really like, you know, they
happy to be from Italy.
Yeah, and like for example, I started cooking. And I never used to cook. I hated cooking. Everybody in my family was so good at it, and I only had tuna from a can, you know, that's what I had. And here I started cooking, and I started looking for like recipes, and now I'm like, you know, going to the grocery, trying to find the more like authentic, like olive oil.
Yeah, I mean, walking here, I saw, was it the Locanda de Gusti?
Locanda de Gusti. I totally recommend. You should go.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that looks so nice. Isn't it from Napoli and stuff? And I looked at the prices. I was like, yeah, that looks very nice.
Too bad for.
But it's for Edinburgh. Keep in mind, I come from Glasgow, right? Yeah. Edinburgh prices are different.
I think for Edinburgh it's good. Like it's obviously for like a special occasion, but it's not too bad if you go there, you know, for like a nice meal out, or like and the quality is really good.
I hope so. I look at the menu and I was like, it better be good. Yeah. Better be amazing.
It is. But yeah, no, like I started like loving cooking, and for me, it's, for example, a bit
Like
of a
that
way
fish
to...
needs to sing to me while I eat it. It has to be that good.
Yes, it was singing to me.
Okay, good. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, so and I started, for example, listening to Italian music and things I never used to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like, do you mean Italian pop music or do you mean Italian?
No, older music.
Yes, I know, right? Oh my god, yes.
No, pop music, I still don't like it. Italian.
I don't mind. Actually, I've got Romanian songs that I do like. I probably have some Italian songs that I like. Is it Zucchero?
Ah, yeah.
I like it to this day, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all these things that when I was home I didn't really care about, and here, because it's probably maybe like a sort of coping mechanisms to kind of just keep in touch with my Italian identity, or like
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think.
Yeah, I've got my Romanian podcast, comedians that I put on every now and again. I've got like I've got Hungarian music, Romanian podcasts. I'm listening to an audiobooks. I've got my days where I'm like, I need to get some of my culture. You know, I need to keep it going in my head.
Exactly, not just like put it in a box and leave it there.
Yeah, because then the annoying thing is when you like start forgetting words, and that's just normal because you don't use them. But then after a while you're like, okay, I really need to get my words back.
Definitely, and like even struggling how to make a sentence because you learn how to even make a joke, or just like chat to people.
The phrases, the terms.
In English, and then in Italian or in Romanian or Hungarian is different. And then sometimes you go home and you build the sentence like wrong, or like you would build it how you would do it.
Yeah,
here.
so people look at you like, you're talking a funny Hungarian there, a funny Italian.
Yes, people asked me if I was foreign in Italy. They thought that my Italian... Someone asked me if I was Romanian, actually, which is...
Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much.
Once they asked me if it was a Romanian lady who asked me if I was Romanian.
Okay, so she was looking for like, oh...
And then another woman in my hometown asked me if I
was... Was she an old Romanian lady?
She was in her 40s. She wasn't that old.
Because like old Romanian ladies spit on you. That's the thing, and they don't do that. So basically, the tradition with old Romanian ladies is they do it to all sorts of young people. Like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. So just so you know, when you meet an old Romanian lady, get ready.
No, she was like Romanian but living in Italy. So she had her kid in Italy and she spoke Italian perfectly. And she heard me speaking Italian and she thought I had the Romanian accent, which was so funny because I don't even speak Romanian, you know.
Oh, bless her. She's like trying to be like, hi, you're one of us.
And then I got a woman in my hometown thinking I was an American student on an exchange in Italy. That was also hilarious.
Did she not know that you're from that town? So obviously she
No, because I never there. So, you know, and that's like, it's impossible that you don't know someone in that town. So,
you get 4,000 people, right?
So you must be an American exchange student.
I love it.
So all these things are like, what?
Yeah, that's the thing where again it's the identity where you have. I mean, it's not that you're not careful. There's some people will start being, well, you weren't here, so you know. So that's why it's important to have your own criteria, and this is who I am. This is who I believe I am, and I'll not change it for unless I've got a better argument.
Yeah.
But you don't let other people be like, oh, this is what you are. Okay, that's what you think. Bye. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's fun, and obviously it's funny and it's exciting. Sometimes it can be a bit uncomfortable. It's so many things all together. Just figuring out who you are and then how people see you, and especially as you're moving through different countries.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a trip. I'm not gonna lie. I like it.
Me too. I think it feels amazing to have two places you can kind of see like home, and having breaks, or just like some days you might feel more of this, another day you might feel like more of that, and just like it's just it's kind of like the same thing as breaking the routine and like making it more interesting. And
yeah, absolutely. No, so I always say that like my Romania, my hometown, that's my first country. That's why I say that's. I mean, you always say homeland or things like that, but I've got to that stage that's like that's my first home, and no one's ever gonna take that away from me. That's my first home, but I've got a second home now.
Exactly.
I think that's normal.